Every single day, you are consumed with information. With the 24/7 negative news cycle and a pop culture that's polluting the airways, all selling out for the ratings game. Well, guess what? There's a more positive way to look at life. You live in the greatest city in the greatest country on the planet. Every day with our elite network of professionals, our goal is to educate, empower, and engage. And now it's time to fight for your American dream. How would you react if someone told you they had the greatest program on earth? That is what I just had to do with Ryan Ponsford, who is joining us in studio, who is a philanthropist. He is a wealth advisor, and he's a repeat offender on the American Dream. Good to have you on the show, man.
Thank you. Always love it.
The best on earth?
I think so. I could be wrong. I haven't seen every program out there.
I was so startled, I spilled my drink all over the news desk.
It was a big mess, but it smells like kale and spinach and wonderful things up here. So it could be worse. It could have been a worse beverage.
You missed something. It might make it to a blooper reel soon, but I have completely drowned our desk with green juice. But it is good now. But really, the greatest program on earth, you called it.
Yeah, I think, and again, I might be biased. It's possible. However, fair. I think it's got a fighting chance, and the reason is this is the antithesis of all the nonsense going on in the world. And as you know, I happen to believe that giving is one of the solutions that solves a lot of the problems that we have going on right now, and teaching people about generosity and gratitude. I think we're missing that, and there's so many studies that show how good that is for people. Mm-hmm. So this program that we launched a few years back and is now expanded. We're here in San Diego, we're in New Jersey, Florida, and the last year and a half we've now launched programs in Wisconsin. It's called Main Street Philanthropy, and we're currently doing it in high schools. And as public schools, we go into a normal class course and we meet for 10 weeks. It's about an hour a week for 10 weeks. We raise some money on the front end, and we take these kids through a 10-week process, training them to become philanthropists. And the reality is what it actually teaches them. This is high school kids, mostly juniors, right? And it teaches them, really what it is it's life, business, and financial literacy through the context of giving. So we take them through this entire program, teach them about identifying causes. They learn how to communicate. They work in groups. So they learn about team collaboration. We don't donate to organizations. We actually invest. So we teach them investment principles, tax code. They read tax returns.
So let me dive into some of the things that you're doing with these people, because kids, young adult, what do you even call a high schooler? But I think it's pretty interesting. Let me frame this up. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I learned that the guy who I was listening to in the interview, super intelligent, and then at the end he says he's 26 years old. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, they're teaching them differently than when we went to high school, right? This is street smart advice. This is holistic generosity. I mean, this is a whole different degree. I'm curious, when you're interacting with high schoolers, how are they receiving this? Tell me about the temperament of the high schooler. Are they engaged? You said they're allowed to pick their own philanthropy. Did I hear you say that? They
drive their whole thing. Here's what's interesting about it. So most of us think of this next generation as a very self-oriented group. And in some ways they are, right? They live in a custom world. Right, when we grew up, we had to go, if we wanted to, a new CD came out or a new song came out, we had to go buy the whole album, suck it up for the whole thing to get our song, right? Yeah. They want something, click, 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 boom, it's in front of them. Yep. So they get everything here and now. And, Facebook's a check me out world. So everybody thinks it's a very self-oriented world. What I found is this is a generation starving to do something bigger than themselves. They're starving to make a difference in the world. And when these kids, I say kids too, but they are young adults, when they're given this chance to do something that they believe in, that they're passionate about, they get fired up and they will come alive. We've had kids where the teacher will come back and say, that kid that's back there, he's been asleep in my class all year. He is engaged and leading his group on this program because they get to be in control of the passion. They pick, what are their causes. We have 20 cards that they go through. They do a card sort and narrow it down to their top picks. And based on those picks, they get put on groups that have overlapping causes that they care about. It could be animal care, it could be environment.
Give me an example.
So, there's 20. So children and youth services, that we have kids that have been in foster programs. And so they will quickly identify that, taking care of kids is important. And another kid might say that, but doesn't have the same experience. Now you put these two kids in a group and someone starts describing and sharing their experience in foster care and the bond and the communication.
Well, that's got to be probably powerful for that kid who probably feels disconnected.
Absolutely.
Right? So do you find that they tend to gravitate towards things that they've been through, experienced?
A lot of the time, yeah. I mean, that's, there's some kids that have different experiences than others, but I mean, there's one of the ones is people with disabilities or, mental or physical disabilities. And a lot of people say, well, I have a brother or a sibling and they have, they're disabled in some way, physically or mentally. And them just sharing that story with the class creates this open communication and conversation where it's not scary anymore. Right, you start having these incredible, deep conversations about, how you love on these different people and how do you take care of these different people. And, veterans is another big one that comes up all the time where people, someone may have a family or relative that was in the military and they start telling those stories. And then they go find an organization that supports veterans and then they hear those stories and they get even more fired up, right? And now they're pumped to make a difference in that space for somebody. And, I call it the gateway drug, right? It's like this little dose that they get of generosity and giving that they just keep wanting more.
They don't teach that, right?
No.
So you're coming in there and you're injecting that in. You said something really profound, and I actually agree with it. You look at the millennial generation, which technically I am not. I'm 36. I think it ends at 35. You look at the millennial generation, and many times they get a bad rap, right? For a variety of reasons. I see the same thing you see as well. I see that the world has changed dramatically, and they were born and raised practically with a mouse in their hand, right?
Yeah.
And I do see more gravitating towards that bigger life purpose, that sense of fulfillment. Look at some of these tech companies, how these corporations are having to model their companies to make it more enjoyable because they want higher retention for their hundreds of employees. I was one in San Francisco, and it's like the whole game has changed.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you're getting in there early in high school, that must be fascinating.
Well, it's cool. It's just neat to see and give you confidence in this next generation. We did a class, I think it was the end of last year, and a lot of times we'll do an event at the year end where it's just graduation, and we go deliver checks. We take buses, go deliver checks around town to organizations, then we come back and do a big celebration. So we invite community members to come. And so I had a guy with me. I carpooled with him, and we were driving home, and he said, Ryan, there's one thing I got out of this that I didn't know existed. I said, what is that? And he has 2 high school kids, and he's always describing the stuff these kids are going through in high school, and it's mind-boggling what these kids have to deal with nowadays with just all the awareness of everything. You can't get away with anything. And the stuff they're talking about.
I'm from Missouri, we used to have to practice getting under a desk for a tornado. Now you have to practice getting under your desk for like a shooter.
Yeah, it's crazy. So he said, this gave me something I didn't know existed. He said, and it gave me hope, right? It gave me hope that there is a future, that these kids can be something. And he's also a little discouraged around his kids and what they're learning and just didn't feel like they were getting prepared. And he said, this is an entirely different perspective that he sees now where there's a chance for them to learn core life skills that will make a difference for them for the rest of their lives. And they'll have a reason for what they do. Why do you need a reason? You need a reason for why you do what you do. And this gives them that first dose of it.
Yeah, it gives them the why. What a great way to get in there early. And the world has changed. I think you're planting some really good seeds that can hopefully flourish. Of course, they can get their message out there in a much bigger scale than we ever had the opportunity to. Ryan Ponsford, philanthropist, wealth advisor, Akili Capital. Good to have you on the show, man.
My pleasure.
Thanks for dealing with me as I spilled everywhere going into the segment. But
none on us, so you're okay.
Yeah, that'll show up in a blooper reel soon enough. All right, more of the American Dream coming up next.